The desert sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the bustling fair that stretched across the golden sand. Brightly colored tents sway gently in the warm breeze, their fabrics fluttering like wings. Merchants called out to travelers, selling spices, jewelry, and strange trinkets from distant lands. Laughter and music filled the air, creating a melody that made the heart beat faster. Among the crowd moved Nalin, a young explorer with a restless spirit and a curiosity that could not be tamed. Nalin's eyes roamed over the fair with wonder. He had traveled far to reach this place, following rumors of rare performances, exotic treasures, and stories that whispered of magic. Every step he took was measured with care, yet filled with excitement. His boots sank slightly into the warm sand as he made his way past stalls of shimmering fabrics and tables of glimmering gems. People smiled, and children ran past him, their faces painted in bright colors, laughing freely. It was a scene full of life, a world entirely different from the quiet villages he had left behind. But amid the chaos, one tent stood apart from the rest. Its deep crimson fabric shimmered in the sunlight, more vibrant than any other color in the fair. It was large, almost regal in its presence, and it seemed to pulse with a quiet energy that drew Nalin closer. He paused for a moment, feeling a strange pull in his chest. There was something about the crimson tent that whispered secrets he did not yet understand, secrets that promised adventure, excitement, and perhaps, more. As he approached, a figure stepped out from behind the tent. Myra, a young performer with hair like dark silk and eyes that sparkled with mischief, watched him with a curious smile. She moved with a grace that made her seem almost weightless, her steps perfectly timed with the soft rhythm of the desert wind. She was arranging a small display of colorful scarves, but her attention never left Nalin. Something about his careful, observant way of moving caught her interest. "Hello there," Myra called, her voice light and welcoming. "You look like someone searching for more than just treasures." Nalin blinked, surprised that she could see so clearly. He smiled, a little shyly. I am curious," he admitted. "I've heard stories about this fair, and about this tent." Myra's eyes glimmered. "Stories can only tell part of the truth. The rest, you have to see for yourself." She gestured to the entrance of the crimson tent. "Would you like to come inside?" Nalin hesitated for a moment, taking in the rich red fabric, the warm glow that seemed to leak from the tent's entrance, and the mysterious feeling that tugged at his heart. Then, with a deep breath, he stepped forward. The moment he crossed the threshold, the sounds of the fair seemed to fade away, replaced by a world that felt both alive and unreal. Inside, the tent was a treasure trove of wonders. Exotic lanterns hung from the ceiling, casting patterns of light and shadow across walls covered in intricate tapestries. Small birds with feathers of every color imaginable chirped softly from cages, and delicate flowers bloomed in sand-filled pots, their petals glowing faintly in the dim light. Nalin walked slowly, absorbing every detail, every scent, every sound. It was a place that seemed to exist outside of time, a hidden world untouched by the ordinary. Myra appeared beside him again, her smile as bright as the lanterns. "These are only some of the wonders," she said softly. "There are more to see, if you are brave enough to look." She led him past a table of curious objects, a small crystal that reflected the light like a rainbow, a carved wooden box that hummed softly when touched, and a tiny glass sphere that seemed to hold a swirling desert storm inside. Nalin reached out to touch the crystal, marveling at how it seemed to glow with its own life. How is this possible?" he asked, awe-filling his voice. Myra laughed lightly, a sound like wind chimes. "Sometimes, the world gives us things that we cannot explain. The magic is not always in the object, it is in the way it makes us feel. As Nalin explored further, he realized that he was not just fascinated by the objects, but also by Myra. She moved among the treasures with a confidence and joy that made everything seem more vibrant. Every gesture, every glance, made his heart beat faster. He felt an unusual warmth, a pull he could not name, but he knew it had something to do with her presence. When the first evening star appeared in the sky, Nalin reluctantly turned to Myra. I think I could spend hours here," he said, smiling. "There is so much to see, so much to learn." Myra's eyes twinkled. "And that is only the beginning. The Crimson Tent has a way of showing people more than they expect sometimes, more than they are ready for." She paused, her gaze lingering on him. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Nalin swallowed, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I think I am," he said finally, stepping deeper into the world of wonders, unaware that this choice would mark the start of an adventure he would never forget. The next morning, the desert sun rose slowly, spilling warm light across the fair. Nalin awoke with a sense of anticipation. The Crimson Tent had called to him the day before, and now he could not stop thinking about the wonders he had seen. Every fiber of his being urged him to return, to explore more of the mysteries hidden behind the deep red fabric. With a quick breakfast of flatbread and dates, he made his way back, feeling a flutter of excitement in his chest. As he approached, Myra was already outside, arranging a small display of glowing lanterns. She noticed him immediately, her eyes lighting up with recognition. "You're back early," she said, smiling. "Most people only come once. You seem different." Nalin returned her smile, feeling a warmth he could not explain. "I want to see more," he admitted. "I want to understand this place, and I want to understand you." Myra laughed lightly, a sound that seemed to echo like music in the quiet morning air. "Then come inside. There are wonders that even I cannot fully explain, and I think you are ready to see them." She stepped aside, allowing him to enter the tent once more. Inside, the Crimson Tent felt alive in a way Nalin had not expected. The lanterns cast dancing shadows across the walls, and delicate fabrics floated gently as if moved by an invisible hand. Small animals, birds, rabbits, and tiny desert foxes roamed freely, unafraid of the visitors. Nalin's eyes widened in amazement. Each corner held a secret, a small miracle, something that defied the ordinary world outside. Myra guided him gently, showing him the wonders one by one. A small fountain bubbled with water that shimmered like liquid silver. Tiny glass orbs floated above it, reflecting light in endless patterns. "These are not tricks," Myra said softly. "They are moments of wonder. They remind us that the world is bigger than we imagine." Nalin reached out to touch one of the floating orbs. It hovered in his palm for a moment before floating back to the fountain. He laughed in delight. "It feels alive," he said. "Almost like it knows me." Myra smiled knowingly. "Perhaps it does," she said. "Everything here responds to the hearts of those who enter. The tent senses courage, curiosity, and honesty. It can see the good in people, even when they cannot see it themselves." As they walked, Myra told Nalin stories of her travels. She spoke of deserts with sands that sang in the wind, forests where trees glowed at night, and cities that floated above the clouds. Nalin listened with rapt attention, his imagination painting vivid pictures of every place she described. He realized that Myra was not just a guide, she was a storyteller, a keeper of wonders, and a friend who could make the impossible feel real. Hours passed quickly, though it felt like only minutes. At one point, Myra led Nalin to a small, quiet corner of the tent where a single tree grew in the sand. Its leaves shimmered like gold, and small flowers bloomed in impossible colors. Myra knelt beside it, her hands gently brushing the petals. "This tree is special," she said. "It only blooms for those who are ready to see beauty in unexpected places." Nalin knelt beside her, feeling a strange sense of peace. "It's incredible," he whispered. "I've never seen anything like this." Myra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the flowers. "And that is why I enjoy showing these wonders to people like you. You see them not just with your eyes, but with your heart. Most people cannot do that." For a moment, they sat in silence, sharing the quiet magic of the place. Nalin felt a connection he had never experienced before. Myra's presence was comforting and exciting at the same time, like standing at the edge of a new world, ready to step forward. He realized that his fascination with the tent was no longer just about the wonders, it was about her. "Myra," he said softly, his voice tinged with hesitation, I feel like I've known you longer than a day. You make everything seem more alive." Myra's lips curved into a gentle smile. "And you make me feel the same way, Nalin," she admitted. "It is rare to meet someone who sees the world as we do. Perhaps, we were meant to meet here, in this tent." The sunlight outside began to fade, casting long shadows across the desert. Nalin stood, his heart filled with curiosity and something deeper he did not yet name. "I want to see more," he said. "Tomorrow, I'll come again." Myra nodded, her eyes glinting with amusement and warmth. "I'll be here," she promised. "And tomorrow, you may discover more than just wonders. You may discover yourself." As Nalin stepped back into the desert evening, he felt a mixture of excitement and anticipation. The crimson tent had already changed him. It had shown him that the world was full of miracles, and it had introduced him to Myra, a girl who could make even the impossible seem possible. He knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning of an adventure that would test his courage, his heart, and his dreams. The next day, Nalin returned to the fair earlier than usual. The desert air was cooler in the morning, carrying the scent of spices and fresh bread from nearby stalls. The laughter of children and the calls of merchants filled the space between the tents, but Nalin's focus was only on one place, the crimson tent. His heart quickened as he neared the familiar deep red fabric, a sense of anticipation fluttering in his chest. Myra was already there, arranging a series of small lanterns along the edge of the entrance. She looked up and smiled when she saw him approaching. "You're early again," she said, her voice light and teasing. "I thought curiosity might tire you, but it seems it has only grown." Nalin laughed softly. "I can't help it," he admitted. "There is so much to see here. And I enjoy your company too." Myra's smile widened slightly, a glint of warmth in her eyes. "Then come inside," she said, stepping aside. "Today, I will show you wonders you cannot imagine. Are you ready?" Nalin nodded, and together they stepped into the tent. Immediately, he felt the familiar magical atmosphere wrap around him. The lanterns cast a warm, golden light, and the shadows danced like silent performers on the walls. The soft chirping of birds and the gentle trickle of fountains created a calm rhythm that seemed to synchronize with his heartbeat. Myra led him to a section of the tent he had not explored before. Here, small glass spheres floated in midair, spinning slowly and glowing with colors that shifted from deep blue to bright gold. Nalin reached out to touch one, and it hovered over his hand, warming his skin with a soft, gentle light. He looked at Myra in wonder. How do they float like this?" he asked. Myra's eyes sparkled. "Some things in this world cannot be explained," she said. "They exist to remind us that magic is real, and that the impossible is sometimes only impossible until we see it." As they moved deeper into the tent, Myra pointed out small details that made each moment feel special. A tiny bird with feathers that glowed like fire perched on a branch and sang a soft, haunting melody. A small plant unfurled its petals as they approached, releasing a fragrance that seemed to carry memories of distant forests. Nalin found himself leaning closer, fascinated by every little wonder. But it was not only the objects that captivated him, it was Myra. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the gentle confidence in her gestures, it all held him spellbound. He realized that his fascination with the Crimson Tent was tied to her presence. Every story she told, every smile she shared, made the magic feel deeper and more alive. At one point, they stopped beside a small fountain, its water shimmering in colors of emerald and sapphire. Myra knelt beside it, dipping her fingers into the cool liquid. "This fountain is special," she said. "It responds to emotions. Joy, curiosity, courage, it reflects them in color. The brighter the feeling, the more the fountain shines." Nalin knelt beside her, watching the water ripple as he dipped his hand. The colors changed from pale green to deep, vibrant gold. "It's amazing," he whispered. "I've never seen anything like this." Myra looked at him, her expression gentle but full of curiosity. "You see the world with open eyes, Nalin. Most people only see what they expect. But you notice, you feel, you care. That is why the tent seems to welcome you." For a while, they sat together in quiet companionship, watching the fountain glow and listening to the soft music of the tent. Nalin felt a strange mixture of peace and excitement. He wanted to stay in this moment forever, yet he also wanted to know more, to explore, to learn, to experience the unknown with Myra by his side. After a few minutes, Myra stood and offered him her hand. "Come," she said. "There is something else I want to show you." Curious, Nalin followed her to a small alcove where a delicate bridge stretched over a pool of clear water. Tiny lights floated above it like stars, and the reflection of the lanterns in the water created a feeling of walking among the night sky. Myra led him across the bridge, and Nalin felt a thrill run through him at the gentle sway beneath his feet. When they reached the other side, Myra turned to him. "This tent is full of wonders," she said softly, "but the greatest wonder is not the objects or the illusions, it is the connections we make, the people we meet, and the courage to feel something deeply." Nalin looked into her eyes and realized she was speaking to him directly. His heart beat faster, and he felt a warmth he could not control. He had come seeking magic and adventure, but he had found something far more powerful, a connection that filled his mind and heart with curiosity, joy, and a quiet longing. As the afternoon sun began to cast long shadows across the tent, Nalin knew that his visits would continue. He wanted to learn more from Myra, explore the wonders together, and perhaps, understand the feelings that were slowly blossoming between them. For the first time, he felt that the greatest adventure was not just outside in the world, but inside the tent, and in the heart of the girl who guided him through it. The sun had barely risen over the desert when a sudden commotion stirred the fair. Shouts and hurried footsteps echoed across the sand as people ran to see what had caused the disturbance. Nalin, who was already near the Crimson Tent, paused and looked toward the crowd. A strange, exotic creature, small but fast, with bright feathers and curious eyes had escaped from one of the fair's enclosures. It darted between tents, knocking over baskets and startling visitors. Nalin felt his heart quicken. This was not just an ordinary creature, it was clever, fast, and clearly frightened. Without thinking, he stepped forward, moving quickly toward the path of the little animal. Myra, standing at the tent entrance, noticed him and called out, "Be careful, Nalin. It's frightened, but it could still hurt itself or someone else." Nalin nodded and took a deep breath. He had traveled far and faced many challenges, but this situation required both courage and quick thinking. He studied the creature's movements, noticing that it seemed drawn to the shadows and quiet corners of the fair. Slowly, he began to follow it, making gentle sounds to calm it, speaking softly so it would not panic further. Myra joined him, moving gracefully beside him. "You have a way with animals," she said quietly, her voice carrying both admiration and encouragement. "I can see why the tent seems to welcome you. You notice the world in a way others do not." Together, they guided the creature toward a safe corner near the crimson tent. Nalin extended his hand, and after a few tense moments, the animal approached cautiously. It chirped softly and allowed him to lift it gently. Myra watched with a smile, her eyes filled with pride. "You did it," she said, her voice warm. "You stayed calm, brave, and kind. That is not easy when the world is in chaos." Nalin smiled, holding the creature carefully. "It wasn't just me," he said. "You helped too. Without your guidance, I might have startled it even more." The crowd had gathered around the crimson tent, watching the scene unfold. When they saw Nalin return the creature safely, murmurs of admiration spread through the spectators. Children clapped, and parents smiled, grateful that no one had been harmed. Myra's eyes met Nalin's, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of courage, trust, and a growing bond. After the excitement settled, Myra led Nalin back inside the tent. "You see," she said softly, "courage is not only about facing monsters or challenges outside. It is also about how you act when things are unexpected, when fear appears, and when choices must be made quickly. You showed that today." Nalin nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. He had faced danger before, but never like this, never with the lives and safety of others so close to his actions. He realized that bravery was more than strength, it was patience, care, and thoughtfulness. Myra's presence had helped him see that clearly. They walked together past the glowing fountains and floating orbs, the soft music of the tent welcoming them back. Myra pointed out details he had not noticed before: a small flower that opened only when touched gently, a bird that sang harmonies in response to laughter, and a crystal that reflected emotions like colors in a rainbow. Each wonder reminded Nalin that the tent was more than just a place, it was a mirror of the heart, showing courage, kindness, and curiosity. As they reached the quiet corner where the golden tree grew, Myra turned to him. "You have a good heart, Nalin," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It shows in everything you do, in the way you move, the way you care. That is rare." Nalin looked at her, feeling warmth spread through his chest. "And you make it easy to feel that way," he admitted. "I don't just want to see the wonders here. I want to learn, to grow, and to share these moments with you." Myra's smile deepened, her eyes reflecting the golden glow of the tree's leaves. "And I want that too," she said. "But remember, the greatest lessons sometimes come when we least expect them. Today, you learned about courage. Tomorrow, you may learn about trust, patience, or even the beginnings of love. Nalin laughed softly, feeling a lightness in his chest. The day's events had tested him, but they had also strengthened the bond he felt with Myra. He realized that their connection was not only about friendship or curiosity, it was about shared experiences, respect, and the quiet understanding that they could face challenges together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting bright light across the desert, Nalin knew that his journey inside the Crimson Tent was far from over. Each day brought new lessons, new wonders, and new moments with Myra that made his heart beat faster. The adventure he had come seeking had become something much deeper, a journey not only through magical places but into the heart of trust, courage, and friendship that might grow into something even more extraordinary. The evening sky over the desert glowed in shades of orange and pink, the sunlight reflecting off the sand like gold. Nalin walked toward the Crimson Tent, his heart lighter than it had been all day. After yesterday's challenge with the escaped creature, he felt a new confidence, a quiet strength that he had not known before. And yet, more than courage or pride, he felt a strange, gentle pull toward Myra, a feeling he could not name but could not ignore. Myra was waiting outside the tent, as if she had sensed he would arrive. She smiled when she saw him, the familiar warmth of her gaze making his chest tighten in a way he had not expected. "You are here again," she said softly, her voice carrying a playful note. "I was wondering when curiosity would bring you back." Nalin laughed, a little nervously. "I couldn't stay away," he admitted. "There is something about this place. And something about you." Myra's eyes twinkled. "Then come inside. There are more things I want to show you, things that only reveal themselves to those who look carefully." Inside, the Crimson Tent felt even more magical as the lanterns glowed brighter against the evening shadows. The gentle hum of the fountains, the soft chirping of the birds, and the faint fragrance of blooming flowers created an atmosphere that felt like stepping into a dream. Nalin followed Myra, his eyes wide with wonder, but also with a new awareness of her presence beside him. She led him to a quiet corner of the tent, where a small, delicate garden had been created in the sand. Tiny plants with luminous petals grew in perfect harmony, and a narrow stream of water ran through the center, reflecting the soft light. Myra knelt beside one of the flowers and held it gently in her hand. "This garden is special," she said softly. "It grows only when people care for it, when they treat it with patience and attention. It responds to kindness, curiosity, and love. The stronger these feelings, the more it blooms." Nalin knelt beside her, touching the soft petals with reverence. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "I've never seen anything like this anywhere else." Myra turned to him, her gaze steady and gentle. "And that is why I wanted you to see it," she said. "Not just because it is beautiful, but because it shows how people's hearts can create something wonderful. You have a heart that notices and feels. That is rare, Nalin." He felt warmth spread through him at her words, a feeling that was both comforting and thrilling. For a moment, they sat together in silence, watching the tiny flowers sway slightly as if moved by an invisible breeze. The connection between them was growing stronger, not through words alone, but through shared moments, quiet understanding, and the gentle trust forming between them. After a while, Myra spoke again. "I want to tell you something," she said, her voice softer now. "I have traveled far, seen many places, met many people. But I have rarely met anyone like you. You are brave, kind, and you notice what others often miss. That is why I enjoy spending time with you." Nalin felt his heart race. I feel the same," he admitted. "You make everything here feel more alive." You make me feel like I can see the world differently. I. I'm glad I met you, Myra. Myra's smile deepened, and she reached out to place her hand gently on his. And I am glad I met you, Nalin. Sometimes, the world gives us moments we cannot forget, and people who change how we see everything. You are one of those people for me. A quiet hush fell over the tent, as if the magic itself paused to watch them. Nalin felt a mix of excitement and calm, a strange peace that came from being seen, understood, and valued. He realized that his fascination with the Crimson Tent was no longer only about its wonders, it was about the moments he shared with Myra, the way they could discover beauty together, and the growing warmth in his heart whenever she was near. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that stretched across the sand inside the tent. Nalin stood slowly, offering Myra a hand. "Shall we explore a little more?" he asked, a soft smile on his face. Myra took his hand, her fingers brushing his, and nodded. "Yes," she said. "There is still much to see. And perhaps, much more to feel." Together, they walked deeper into the Crimson Tent, leaving footprints in the soft sand and creating memories that would linger in both their hearts. For Nalin, the adventure had become something far more meaningful than he had ever imagined. It was not only about discovering wonders, it was about discovering trust, friendship, and the beginnings of a connection that could change his life forever. The desert sky was painted in deep purples and blues as evening approached. The fair was slowly winding down, and the air was filled with a mix of tired laughter, the scent of roasted nuts, and the faint melodies of distant music. Nalin walked toward the Crimson Tent, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and unease. Today felt different. He had spent many days exploring the wonders inside, learning about courage, kindness, and the quiet magic of the world. But today, he sensed a choice was waiting, one that would require courage not just in action, but in his heart. Myra was at the entrance, arranging a small display of softly glowing lanterns. She looked up and smiled when she saw him, but there was something in her eyes today that made him pause. "You came again," she said softly. "I wondered if you would." "I couldn't stay away," Nalin admitted. "There is so much here, Myra. And I don't want to miss a single moment with you." Myra's lips curved into a gentle smile. "Then come inside," she said, stepping aside. "Tonight, I want to show you something special. Something that only appears for those who are ready to take a step forward." Nalin followed her into the Crimson Tent, the familiar warmth and glow wrapping around him like a protective embrace. Lanterns flickered overhead, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The fountains hummed softly, and delicate flowers glowed faintly in the dim light. Myra led him past sections he had explored before, their colors and wonders now familiar but still magical, before stopping in a secluded corner of the tent. A small stage had been prepared, lit with soft golden lanterns. On it, a delicate carpet of flowers seemed to pulse with light, as if responding to their presence. Myra gestured for Nalin to step closer. "This is my favorite part of the tent," she said. "It is a place where people can see the future not as it is, but as it might be. But to enter, one must choose. A choice is always required before a new beginning." Nalin felt his heart race. He looked at Myra, noticing the warmth in her eyes and the quiet encouragement in her smile. "A choice?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Myra said. "You can stay in your familiar world, safe and certain, or you can step into the unknown with me. The tent shows wonders, yes, but the greatest adventure is what comes after the journey outside, together." It requires courage, trust, and a willingness to follow your heart. Nalin swallowed, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. He had faced challenges before, but this was different. It was not about strength or quick thinking, it was about opening himself to something unknown, something that could change his life forever. He thought of the adventures they had shared, the moments of laughter, the lessons learned, and the warmth that Myra's presence always brought. He began, unsure of how to put his feelings into words. Myra reached out, gently taking his hand in hers. Her touch sent a shiver through him, but it was comforting, steady, and reassuring. "You don't have to speak," she said softly. "Sometimes, the heart knows what the mind cannot yet say." Nalin took a deep breath, letting the soft glow of the lanterns and the magic of the tent fill him with courage. He stepped forward, placing his hand firmly in Myra's. "I choose to take the journey," he said. "With you." Myra's eyes shone brightly, her smile radiant. "Then come," she said. "The world outside is waiting for us, full of wonders we cannot yet imagine. But together, we can face anything." Hand in hand, they stepped onto the stage of flowers. The light seemed to grow brighter, and the colors of the petals shifted and swirled, responding to their choice. Nalin felt a surge of excitement, a thrill of anticipation, and a quiet joy at the courage he had found in himself. Myra squeezed his hand gently, a silent promise that they would face the unknown together. As they left the crimson tent, the warm evening breeze greeted them, carrying with it the scent of the desert and the faint sound of music from the fair. Nalin realized that this step was more than an adventure, it was a commitment, a beginning, and a choice to embrace something greater than he had ever known. For the first time, he truly understood what Myra had meant. The greatest wonders were not only the treasures and magical objects of the tent, but the connection they shared, the courage to step forward together, and the willingness to trust in each other. The journey ahead was unknown, but with Myra by his side, Nalin felt ready for anything. As they walked into the desert night, their hands clasped tightly, Nalin knew that this choice would mark the start of something extraordinary, a journey filled with magic, courage, and the quiet power of hearts united. The desert night stretched wide and still, dotted with countless stars that twinkled like distant lanterns. Nalin and Myra walked side by side, leaving the crimson tent behind, its deep red fabric glowing faintly in the distance. The air was cool against their skin, carrying the scent of sand and distant flowers. Nalin felt a thrill in his chest, a mixture of excitement, wonder, and something deeper he could not yet name. "This feels different," he said softly, glancing at Myra. "I thought I wanted to explore the wonders inside the tent, but now I want to see what is out here, with you." Myra smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "The tent showed us magic," she said. "But the real adventure is out here, in the world beyond. Every place we visit, every challenge we face, will teach us something new. And together, we can face anything." They walked for a while, their steps silent on the soft desert sand. Nalin noticed how naturally their hands found each other, fingers intertwining as if they had always belonged that way. There was a quiet comfort in the connection, a warmth that made him feel stronger, braver, and more alive. He realized that the crimson tent had been only the beginning, it had prepared him for the journey ahead, teaching him about courage, curiosity, and the subtle power of trust. As they reached a small dune, Myra paused and looked out over the desert. The moon cast a silver glow on the rippling sand, turning it into a sea of light and shadow. "Do you see that?" she asked. "The world is endless. There are places we cannot imagine yet, but we will find them. And each day will bring something new, Something magical, something, ours. Nalin nodded, feeling the weight of possibility settle pleasantly on his shoulders. I've never felt this way before, he admitted. I've seen many things in my travels, but nothing compares to this being with you, discovering the world together. Myra's smile deepened, and she gently rested her head on his shoulder. And I have never felt this way either, she said softly. We have learned so much from the tent, from each other. And now, it is time to live those lessons. They continued walking, leaving behind the familiar sights of the fair and stepping into the vast unknown. The desert, which had once seemed endless and intimidating, now felt like a canvas waiting for their footsteps. Each step became a choice, each glance a shared moment of understanding and joy. Nalin realized that the greatest adventure was not only in discovering new lands or hidden wonders, it was in discovering life together with someone who truly understood his heart. As they moved through the night, Myra stopped and reached for a small bundle of glowing flowers she had taken from the tent. She handed them to Nalin, who accepted them with a grateful smile. These are from the Crimson Tent, she said. A reminder that magic exists everywhere, even outside the walls of a tent, if we choose to see it. Nalin looked at the flowers, their soft light illuminating both their faces. Then we carry the magic with us, he said. Not just in these flowers, but in how we see the world and each other. Myra nodded, squeezing his hand gently. Exactly. The real magic is in the heart. It is in courage, in trust, in kindness, and in love. And now, we will live that magic together. For a long time, they walked in silence, letting the peaceful night and the vast desert speak for them. Nalin felt a sense of completeness he had never known before. The adventures, the lessons, the wonders of the Crimson Tent all had led to this moment. He realized that the tent had not just shown him magic outside himself, it had revealed the magic within him, and the possibility of something extraordinary with Myra. Finally, they reached the top of a large dune, where the entire desert stretched before them like an endless sea of silver and gold. Myra turned to Nalin, her eyes soft and bright. This is only the beginning, she said. The world is full of wonders waiting for us. And whatever comes, we will face it together. Nalin smiled, holding her hand tightly. Together, he echoed. And in that moment, under the vast sky full of stars, he knew that their journey was not just about exploring lands or discovering magic, it was about sharing life, courage, and heart. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, carrying the lessons of the Crimson Tent, the warmth of their bond, and the promise of countless adventures ahead. The night wind swept over the dunes, gentle and endless, carrying with it the quiet magic of new beginnings. And in the hearts of Nalin and Myra, a story had begun, one of courage, friendship, love, and the extraordinary power of two hearts united in wonder.